G'day everyone, welcome back to the starting your wedding and portrait photography business. It's been a while since we had a discussion on this because I've just been too busy to continue on with the series continuously, but I thought we'd get back to it today. We've got a number of people watching now and commenting. Kieran has just said that he's been in Canyon Lands in Utah. That sounds beautiful. He's been in the wilderness for a while. People are asking about cages and stuff. If I might show that I actually did that in a video. If you want to check the A6 500 cage that I've been using, I discussed that in hardware, I think. But I'll have a look and see if I can find that for you. A lot of people are just saying hi from Sweden. Merker's from Sydney. We've got Casper. We've got RA83SH, and BMCP Metalworks is from Canada. Michael Becker's saying hello. Kieran's saying hello. So we've got stacks. So guys, if you can give me a thumbs up, please. Let's see if we can get some more people involved. It just gets more in the discussion. Have a talk amongst yourselves too. We've got Photo Mickey here. Hi mate, how are you? Nice to see you popping on board. So what I want to talk to you today is about when is it time to actually start your own business. Now, I've already put in a number of videos. If you look at the playlist, this hasn't been added to that playlist yet, but I will as soon as this is uploaded. But I've already incorporated there the gear that I use, and I've gone through the whole thing, like what cameras you use, flash systems, continuous lighting systems that I use. So there's a whole stack of things that you can look at if you want to go back through the whole thing. And I do recommend, if you haven't gone back, to look back at those other videos, and you'll see that this is all part of that playlist. So today I thought we'd talk about when is it the right time to start your business, and this might be a good spot to actually start to talk about. I'll get questions all the time about, am I right to start a business yet? Or what should I do? When is the correct time to do it? So I thought I'd just talk to you about that, because it's a great place to start, and then we can go on to other issues like contracts and creating a business name, taxation, well, how it is in Australia anyway. Everywhere is going to be different, but I'll talk about all of these things with you, pricing, how to set all that up as the time goes on now from this point. So basically, I wanted to talk about, there's a few things that when you're ready to start a business is a very hard question to sort of answer. So I'm going to just talk about it as a generic thing about when you actually think you're skilled enough to actually start a business. Because to be honest, I wouldn't probably start a business until you are actually competent in what you're doing. And this is the really important thing, because if you do it too early, basically your business is not going to grow and you're just not going to get any work. So my suggestion to you is to start very slowly and build things up over a period of time. Now, to say this is really critical, is not to quit your job too early, because the problem is, if you do that and you're relying on just running your business and getting money from that business alone, you're going to be in real trouble. So you do have to have a really quite a big saving account set up so that you can, even I think, to try and survive for possibly 3 to 6 months without any money at all, because you need that type of a backup for going full time. Now, I was very lucky when I did it, because when I did do it, I did back up and save for a while, so I had that fallback money that I had. But also, my wife has continued to work, so I do have that other income in case if things did actually start to go bad for me, that we have still got an income stream coming in. So that's something that you do have to consider, guys, is to make sure that you've got an income that you can count on in case if things go badly. Let me just crop up here too and see what people are saying. Sony Shill, Lanya said, when you have a good portfolio to start your business. And I'm going to go through that actually too. Photo Mike says, I'm going to call you and talk to you to sleep. That's someone talking to him. Kieran was kind of annoyed the other day. First time doing a family shoot and only got paid 50 quid. Thought I should have got more, but didn't make prices clear before. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about as we go on with things like contracts and how you set your pricing and things like that. And I'll show you how I've set up my website and things like that as well, because pricing is a really important thing. But let's start up first because I want to talk to you about equipment. There's no point even starting a business if you haven't got the equipment to back it up. So what I mean by that is you don't need really, really expensive equipment, but you do need backup equipment. And if you go back through those videos that I discussed with you, you'll see that everything I had multiple backups. Sometimes I've got 3 things to back me up in case if something fails. I have had a camera drop, like I think it was a D810 and I dropped that. I have dropped my A7 IIs. And I think my D810 actually broke the frame mount when I dropped it, and the lens was okay, but the actual camera I couldn't use for that day. Luckily, I had a backup camera with me so I could keep shooting. And this is the thing that I'm saying to you, for God's sake, do not do professional work unless you have a backup equipment in case if something fails. You don't know if a shutter's going to fail. You don't know if a card reader in your camera is going to fail or anything like that. You don't know if you're going to drop your gear and something's going to fail. So you have to have a backup in case if that happens. And that's why it's so important that you can continue to work. And that doesn't mean that you have to have, say for instance, I've got an A9, a Sony A9. You don't have to have 2 Sony A9s. You could get by with a Sony A6500 if you had to. But you've got to have something there in case if something goes wrong. And that includes lenses. So you do also have to have a coverage in case if for instance you're shooting in low light, and if you've only got one lens that works in low light and then you're in a reception or you're working late in a wedding somewhere and you need that low light lens, well then you clearly have to have something to back you up in that regard as well. So you can't underestimate gear for redundancy, and that includes cameras, it includes lenses, and it includes flash, continuous lighting as well. So these are really important things that you have to do to set up. Now you don't need this when you're originally setting up to learn and things like that. But when you're going to start to charge for your services, this is when that you need this type of gear. Because if you haven't got a backup, it is the worst thing you can do. For starters, you could leave yourself open to being sued. It's unprofessional because you can't finish the shoot. And like I said, when I dropped that camera, I was devastated, but I didn't show that to the bride that I was upset. I just laughed because I was deep down, I was really upset about it, but I didn't show that to the bride, and I just pulled the other camera out and said, don't worry about it, I've got more gear that I can just go on to. So that's an important thing that you have to do, guys. The other thing too is you have to also have knowledge of that gear. So there's no point in just going out buying a camera and then getting a paid job for it, and then all you're doing is messing around with the menus, you're messing around with the controls, you're not quite sure how the focus works, which focus setting to use. So it's really, really important that you have a thorough knowledge of that camera and that flash, that lighting equipment that you're using, that lens, before you actually start charging someone for work. And that takes practice, practice, and practice. And we're going to talk about that when we look at shooting experience in a few minutes. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, that it's critical. Equipment is critical. Backup gear is just as critical, and also your knowledge of that equipment is also critical. And that takes practice, 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 and time. Before you're even thinking about setting up a business, you should just keep working at this. And I would seriously suggest that you look at 1 to 2 years, probably 2 years, to build this all up before you think about going serious. But yeah, let's see what some people are saying anyway. So Photo Mike said, man, I woke up when the phone beeped. He might have got a notification. Now, what else? M. De Brown, g'day mate, how are you? Good to see you on here. Ben said, hi, David from New York. The sound is good, but the picture is upside down. Must be an Australian thing. That's because we're down under. Marco Production said, yes, backup. Weddings, I take... No end of story, yeah, repeat. So that you're saying basically use things as well. Photo Meek said, I had a D700 shutter crash in the middle of a maternity shoot. We had to finish with a backup D7000. And that's the thing, see, everyone will have a story like this. Like I said, I had my camera on a strap and it was on a rapid strap and I hadn't tightened the rapid strap up enough. And I've done this twice. I don't know why, but it's actually happened to me twice where the camera's dropped. One time I had my, like I said, the lens mount broke on my D810. And the other time I had a Sony, I think it was the A7 II, but I had the Sony flash on it and that fell and the Sony flash where it mounts onto the hot shoe broke, so I couldn't use that flash. Luckily, I had multiple other flashes that I could use. So we're all going to have that issue, guys, and this is the thing, and this is why I'm telling you early on is make sure you're professional. The main thing that you can do if you want to grow your business is to look professional to people. And one of those things that you're looking at with professionalism is to have a backup of every single thing that you're dealing with. Because if you do that, if something goes wrong, you're going to look like a professional. If you go, I can't shoot, you're in trouble. And I've seen a number of people that shoot weddings with one camera, and it just freaks me out. So just really consider that. Take the Shooter said, yeah, I started with family and friends as business first, and that's a great thing, and I'll talk about that shortly as well. So that's the part with the equipment. And like I said, if you go back through my previous videos in this series, under the playlist, you'll see all the equipment that I've listed. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to need to have that much gear. You don't. I clearly have a lot, but I've had a long time now, and I'm earning fairly good money. So for me, I can justify buying new gear all the time and writing it off. But when you're starting your business off, you can't do that. But like I said, you do need at least one good camera and one backup camera. They don't have to be as good, but you do need one of each. And like I said, a lens coverage as well. So let's talk about shooting. How long should you be shooting for before you decide to do this? Well, I think you need to be shooting a lot. And this is why I'm saying that I think you should build up over a period of 2 years. Because, to be honest, it sounds like a long time, but it's not. 2 years can go like crazy, and you'll look back and go, wow, that went so fast. But in that time, you can be doing a number of things, which I'm going to discuss with you, about setting yourself up to be confident in front of people. And remember, a lot of this is confidence, that a professional will look confident in front of their camera. Now, when I first started, I shit myself, and this is a common statement Australians will say. I shit myself, and I was really, really nervous. But I didn't show the client that, so they didn't know how nervous I was. And that's the thing, remember, only you know that you are nervous. So as long as you don't show that to your client, if you are doing something on the back of the camera, look like you're actually doing it deliberately while you're learning, and and just sort of go and be confident about it, and then they'll think, oh yeah, this is just normal. If you're looking like this, and and the other thing too is that when you're shooting someone and you might look at the image and it's totally wrong, don't give that look and go, like what's going on. Basically, look like, oh, that looks good, and let's try this again now, and move on that way to gain confidence of the person that you're actually dealing with. So what I'm saying here is the time shooting. These are the things that you need to learn if you're going to become a professional, and they're things that I think you should learn before you actually start charging. But you can do these things without charging, and I'll talk a little bit about this when we go through work experience a little bit further down. But your time shooting, you need to learn posing, for instance. Now, posing is a really, really hard thing to learn, and it takes a lot of confidence when you're trying to learn this as a new photographer, because there's nothing more scary than you trying to tell someone how to pose. So these are things that you have to learn from watching others and working with models. Now, one of the best things that you can do to learn posing is to actually pay a good model. If you pay a good model, she will know how to pose very, very well, and you watch her when you're working with her and actually do it. The problem is going to workshops doesn't really help in this scenario, because you watch them and you're not actually doing it yourself. You need to actually be constantly doing this yourself. Going to a workshop can help to see how it's done, but then you immediately need to go and practice this on your own, because unless you can do this on your own, it's a very intimidating thing. So there's some things that I used to use when I worked initially. I actually used to grab a few, and I think I've even still got them on my phone, because I used to use posing guides as guides on my phone. Let me have a look and see if I can find them for you, because there is posing guides that you can download as apps, and they actually are really quite good. Can I find them? Oh, I don't know if I can. Oh, yes, here we go. They're poses. Yeah. Now, they're poses samplers. I'll see if I can focus on it, because you might be able to see if I come down here. They're ones that I grabbed off the Apple Store, and they give you good posing, and I'll open one up and I'll just show you how they work. It's going to update. That wasn't a good thing to do, was it? I'll show you anyway here. They show you how they actually look when you're looking at the pose itself. But also some of these poses ones, you can actually get them so that they'll use the camera in your phone, and then you can move them until they fit the look of the pose in the actual app. So these are a great thing that you can actually use when you're trying to learn. And there's a million of these apps that you can download online. I don't use them now, but when I was first learning years ago, they're a great way of learning how to pose, and there's some free ones you can find. I'm going to do a posing video for you guys, and I'll show you how you can do basic poses and how you set up a girl and a guy cuddling and all these different things. I'll show you that as a video. So I can bring that up as well. I'm sorry if I sound a bit hoarse. I've still got this cold. So that's one thing that you can actually do to help your posing. Like I said, hire a model, pay for a decent model. Now, I know it might sound expensive, but it's not to learn from. Using an inexperienced model, you will not learn much because they're going to be as nervous as you are. If you pay for an experienced model, they will be very confident and they will help you in what you're doing. If you're experienced and you're paying for their time, you can tell them what you're actually trying to do and they'll help you along, and you'll be able to monitor how they move and how they shape themselves, how they hold their hands. Because you've got to learn things like, ballerina hands, keeping their hands very, very loose and nice and holding them really gently against their face, not putting pressure on their face. Holding hands sideways instead of having them facing this way towards the camera. And a good model will know how to do that. So they're important things that you can learn by paying for a model. And clearly, if you've paid for that model, you can also use that in your portfolio. So it's also a great thing to do as well. Just let me come up here and see what some people are saying. Someone's saying they now do family sessions, anniversaries, etc. Kieran's saying the main is a Canon 80D and the backup is a 760. Tag the Shoe just said, yeah, my hot shoe on my A9 broke and I had to use the A6 500 to back me up. And see, this is why you have to have backup cameras, guys. I can't stress this enough. Ben has said, check out Robert, I can't pronounce his second name, Venjuala's book. I can't pronounce his name, but yes, I actually did a workshop with him last year, I think it was. He was amazing, that guy, a really, really good photographer, and he's great at posing as well. Someone has also said, yes, they have some PDFs on their phone, and that's the great thing to use is your phone, and don't be scared about looking. The other one I love looking at too, this is just about done. I'll show you another one, which is a great one. I'll see if I can find it because it has some great photographers on there, like Jerry Guionis. It also has that Rob you were talking about. There's others. Let me see if I can bring it up. Oh, it's still upgrading. So that's talking about posing. Now, clearly as well, you can actually get models like in Model Mayhem, all these other areas, advertise on YouTube and things like that, and you can work with them too to build up your portfolio. But I'm going to talk about that in shooting experience. Now, another thing too that you've got to understand as well is your ability to communicate. You really have to learn how to communicate with your clients. And that also includes being able to communicate with your models, because really, when you're dealing with a model will really love you communicating with her and telling her how to do it. She may be very good at moving, but you may then say, yes, but just try this, just move a little bit this way. Models will adore that if you come to the forefront and start directing them and telling them what you want them to do, because they're not really quite sure usually what you want them to do. Now, really good paid models will probably just move on their own and they will do things without you even really having to ask much. But when you're starting to deal with paying, say, for girls that want their modelling portfolio done, well, then you need to have to communicate with them to tell them how to move, telling them how to hold their hands this way, telling them basically to turn their shoulder away from the light at the back and to swivel their hips, to put all their weight onto the back foot. These are all things that you have to start to communicate. The other thing when you talk about communication too, I'll always have a chat with my clients before I actually shoot them. I'll sit them down for 15 minutes or so and discuss general life with them. And that relaxes them, because the problem is if you just come up to a client and then say, okay, we're ready to go, and bang, and you throw a camera right up in their face, it's intimidating. But if you have that little bit of time beforehand to sit down, have a coffee, do things like that and relax them, they realise that you like them as a person, and that is a massive thing about dealing with a client. And sometimes one of the best things that you can do too is not have the camera up in front of your face, and that's the beauty of mirrorless systems, because you can bring the camera away, you can have eye contact with that client and talk to them like a person, and that can relax them as well, so they're not sort of having this shutter shock of looking at a camera, which can be very intimidating for people. Let me go back to a couple of questions and see what they're saying here. Photo Mike said, Ben Silverstone, Roberto is the boss. Yeah, he is. Roberto's really, really good. Jerry Guionis is incredible. If you want to learn really good posing, Jerry Guionis is as good as he gets, and also a great trainer. There's some trainers online that annoy the crap out of me. They're in it just for the money, and I hate to say that, but they are. These people never shoot. And that's the problem. They'll say they do, but if you look on their YouTube, or if you go onto Creative Live or all these other websites, all they're ever doing is selling. All they're ever doing is trying to get you to go to a workshop. All they're ever doing is trying to get you to buy this book. All they're ever doing is trying to promote themselves in a big seminar with 500 people in a seminar trying to get you to do their workshop. And that's no good, guys. Jerry Guionis doesn't work that way. Jerry Guionis is a full-time working photographer. And that's one of the differences between Jerry and a lot of these other people that are just in it for money. So you do have to be very careful with these so-called trainers. RA83 said, it is awkward to show a couple, for example, the third-party photos to make them pose. I don't actually show them those photos. I'll direct them. When I was first looking, if I'm looking onto on my phone, I'll just look at that and I'll tell the clients I'm looking for inspiration, but I won't actually show them the actual picture. I'll just direct them to that look. Hi, Ben. How are you, mate? It's good to see you watching. So let's move down. So we're talking about communication, remember? Try that too. Try sitting them down, having a chat with those clients. Try relaxing them before you're actually shooting with them. And if you're time poor, even if you do it for 5 minutes, but it's a really critical thing, guys, to do that, to have that line of communication with them. The other thing too is you have to work out your style before you actually start to advertise yourself for work. There's no point having a style that is all over the place, because people will not hire you for that. If you look at my style, it does have a particular style which is often quite dark. I came from a fashion background. I was a high-end retoucher. I was in photography 20 years ago doing fashion. I was actually in the advertising industry for most of my early life when I was working. So I always came from a fashion background. So my images do have a fashion type look about them. And not everyone likes that, but tough. That's what I like. Now, when people hire me, they hire me for that look. So that's the type of look over the period of time that I've now got, that people will look at that and they'll say, yes, we want you. Then you don't have to sell yourself anymore, because they've already hired you for the look that they like. If I get someone coming to me and they say they want this look and it doesn't match my style, I won't work with them, because I know there's probably going to be potentially issues. And I often say to them, well, why did you even think about hiring me if your style is not what I'm actually showing? And it's important to find that style, and to find your style takes time, and you'll find it'll naturally come to you. Some people like really airy type looks. Some people love that, just a natural light type look. I'll work natural light and off-camera flash, but I will do both. But I still have this sort of dark, contrasty type look too that I like. But I'm also starting to move a little bit to this flat type look as well, which you'll see on the images I've just posted on Facebook and YouTube yesterday that I did for a backdrop organisation that I've just grabbed that sent me some backdrops. So I'm using this different little look, but it's still got that sort of a dark look about it. So you can always tell my style when you look at it. So it's important, guys, to work that out and stick to that style. And then when you want to change, that's okay, but move over and then change to your new style. But if your style's all over the place, you'll really confuse your clients. So that's a really important thing as well. Let's have a look else what someone is saying. Adapted Lenses said it's important to compliment people to put them at ease, and they develop confidence that will enhance the results. And you know what, Adapted Lenses, that is completely true. If your client is relaxed, the images will be so much better than if they're nervous. And like I said, one of the worst things you can do is to just immediately go into the shoot. You have to take time to treat people as people. If you do that, they'll relax. And like I said, eye contact is very important when you're doing your shoots. Don't hide behind the camera. And that's a hard thing to do when you're first learning because it's intimidating to look at someone. But, you know, you learn to do it and it relaxes them, and it's an important thing to do. Let me just have a look at what some other people are saying in here. Sonny Shill said, yeah, just watch some Jerry Guionis and you'll be good to go. He's amazing. Jerry is an incredible photographer. I love Jerry Guionis' work. And he's another Aussie. Keith said, amen. So now what I'm going to go down to now is shooting experience, because we're going to look at that because it takes time to actually do this. And I'm just going to give you a few ideas about how you can get experience, because initially when you're starting to work, you say, well, how do I work with someone? No one's hiring me. No one's interested in getting work from me, things like that. And it's tough when you're first starting. And that's the problem. Now, my other suggestion too is pick an area that you love to do. Hi, Keith. How are you, mate? Good to see you here. For instance, I don't do babies. I don't like doing it. I hate doing newborns. And I did, if you look at my other live video, I actually showed some of the images that I do. I'm not saying that I'm bad at it. I mean, for what I did for the images that I showed in my previous video, I actually think that they're quite good. But I get anxious and I just don't like doing it. This may be a guy thing, I'm not sure, and you guys can let me know as well. I'm not comfortable holding babies and cuddling them for an hour and doing all these sort of things. I just want to hand them off. And it's not what I love to shoot. So I don't want to be a studio that is shooting things that I don't want to do. I think life is too short, and I think if you don't enjoy shooting what you're doing, you're not going to do a very good job at it. Now, even though I think those images were quite nice that I did, but they were of my granddaughter, so that's why I did it. If they weren't of my granddaughter, I would have passed that shoot on to someone else. And that's a thing that I think you really need to think about. If a job is outside of your expertise area, or if a job is an area that you don't really like doing, I wouldn't think about doing it. I'd be passing that job on. And that's an important thing to do. So for what you do initially, thank you. I was just going to donate a donation from, I can't pronounce the first name, but it's Brindle Nettles or something. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you are starting to think about what you want to shoot, this will relate directly to your style that you're going to shoot as well. So if you hate doing babies, my suggestion too is don't do them, because it's going to hurt you and it will affect your look and it'll affect your learning time, it'll affect your style, and also I think it shows in your work. So if it's something you don't like doing, don't do it. Now, what you can do then is you start to work out what area really, really interests you. It may be real estate, it might be doing model work, it may be doing weddings, and it might be portraits and things like that. I do sometimes do real estate, and I'm okay at it. I'm not fantastic at it, but I quite enjoy it, and that's the reason why I do it when it comes my way. I don't get a lot of real estate work, but 90% of my business is weddings and also portraits. And when I say portraits, most of the portrait work that I do is modelling type work. I do some families and I do some children, but when I say children, they're old enough that they can walk around or sit up. Like I said, I just don't like doing baby work, so they're the things that I try and keep out of. Now, so they're the areas that I like to do. So how do you go about getting those people into your studio or to get work experience done of that? The only way you can really start off at the beginning is obviously to try and do free shoots. That's one way of doing it. And you'll get a lot of photographers that say don't work for free. I disagree with that. I think if you're working for yourself to build a portfolio, there's no problem at all in working for free. But later on, I'll talk about that, about charging for weddings and stuff like that. When you're ready, you have to charge. But when you're first learning, you do need to be working for free to build up a portfolio. Go online, go on things like Model Mayhem. I've just had another donation. 95 just gave me $5. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate that. When you're starting to work, go online, go on Model Mayhem and advertise yourself there for working with a model. I've just got another 5. 95 just gave me another 5. Oh, guys, you're incredible. When you're starting, go on Model Mayhem, try areas like that. Go onto the modelling groups on Facebook and advertise yourself there that you want to work, trade for prints. But what you must do, and this is what annoys the crap out of models, is when you don't give them the images back. When you start to work with these people, you have to perform and give them the images. I don't know how many times I've heard from models and stuff that photographers work with these people and then they never give them their images. Guys, that's the first way that your business will not grow and your name will get bad. You have to keep sharing. And the best thing you can do is give them their work and get them to share. Because I found the way that I grew was to share everything that I did. I'd be sharing on Facebook, and I'll talk about this later too when we go to marketing, but I'd be sharing on Facebook, I'd be sharing on Instagram, I'd be sharing on 500px, Flickr. It's a big job, but you've got to get out there to share. If you don't do that, people aren't going to see your work. And it takes ages to start for people to see enough of you or to build your profile so you can get enough people in to start getting work. So you have to try and share. And what better way than having the model share the work? So that's one way I'm talking about of doing this. Work with others, work with florists. Now, I did a job on the weekend, which you'll see if you look on my Facebook page. You'll see that I shared a collaboration I did with a company on the weekend who does high tea. So that was a commercial shoot. So I worked with them over that one. And clearly I'm sharing her the images. She gave me all the cupcakes, all the props, everything else that I needed to do. I just have to give her some of the images. So again, I'm getting something for it. They're getting something for it. So it's a great way of working with people. Work with florists. I just did another one where we've got a headband. If you check an image I just put on Instagram this morning, that headpiece was done by a florist. She supplied that for me. I didn't have to pay for that because I'm working with her and I'm going to give her a few images from that. So she shares it. Again, that helps my profile because that florist has now shared that work. And now that's going to go out and be seen by people. So they're going to see Osler images when they see that as well. So again, that's now been shared. So the model's going to share that work. The model's family, because she was a young girl, the model's family is going to share that work. The florist is going to share that work. And this is how you got to think, guys. You've got to think that, yeah, I may not be getting paid for that job, but I'm trying to build my profile. And at the moment, your profile is the most important thing that you can build. You need to get followers for either YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, 400px, 500px, all of these areas, you need to actually get people following you. And if you do that, you will start to get work automatically because people are going to be interested in to see what you're doing. And that's one amazing way of working it. Like I said, the cake manufacturer, work with a cake manufacturer. If you're trying to get into wedding photography, work with a cake manufacturer because that can be a great way of also getting in because you're working with a supplier. Work with the wedding venue. Offer to shoot them some images of their wedding venue and give them to them for free if they'll put you on their preferred photography list. See, there's all of these things that you have to start doing, and we'll look at this when we go to marketing too in fully. But that's one way that you can actually go as well. And like I said, work with models because that's so important. And the best way of working with models when you're first starting out is to go on things like Model Mayhem, go onto Facebook, work in the modeling groups on Facebook, all those sort of things. You can even contact agencies and then if your work starts to get good enough, you can say, look, I'm trying to build my portfolio. Are there any new models that you'd like model folios built for? And you can have the images as long as I can share them. There's all of these other things too that you can do. So they're all interesting things that you can do as well. Let me just come back up to here and see what people are saying. 95 said, many people who shoot don't understand that I earn my images. People dig my personality usually and they smile and let me in. It's not the camera, it's your smoothness and motion and transitions. And that's true too often. It is your personality that makes a massive difference in how you get work. So, you know, it's important to understand that. What else have we got? We've got Ben, I think Tag the Shooter donated $5. It didn't come up as blue, but it's there. Thanks, Tag the Shooter. Sorry, I've got this massive cough. Let me have a drink. Francisco's joined us. Hi, Francisco. Nice to see you in here. Adapted Lenders said, hi, David. Many family and portrait photographers charge $195 to $295 for initial session with the hope to upsell into expensive frame prints, etc. Do you think that turns many people off? Options. I'm going to talk to you about that fully later on when I talk to pricing. But yes, I do. I don't like that system at all. I basically, I'll tell you what I charge. I charge $450 for an hour shoot, and inside that they get 5 images, digital images, but they're down res size, so they can't print them very big. They can go to A4 size. If they want to go bigger to put them on the wall, they have to come back through me. I am very sus of these places that offer really cheap charges for doing a setting. It does put people off, and I've had that many people say to me, David, I love the way you work because there's no pressure in trying to sell. And that's one of the main things that has let my business go. I don't want to go too much into this because I'll talk to this when we get into pricing, but that's one of the main things that my business grows is I don't do hard sell. And if you watch all these things on these other shows, they're always talking about hard sell, hard sell, hard sell. And all that does is bad word of mouth. I very rarely advertise. I'll only advertise on Facebook, but I very rarely advertise. The thing with me is it's all word of mouth. So it's very important for me that the people that are actually using me are going to give a great referral. And if I'm trying to sell them and they're not happy, that they think I'm just trying to make hundreds and hundreds of dollars off them, they're not going to refer me. And that's a massive turn-off, I think. So I'm a very suspect of using that, charge a very small amount and then make a payment on prints. But I'll talk about that, like I said, in when we go to pricing later on. Ben said wedding planners can network you in a host of vendors. That's right, that's true. Wedding vendors, planners, we call them, they are called wedding planners here. They're a great thing too, and I have got a number of those that I work with. I'm very suspect though too. I don't like to be a preferred vendor of wedding venues, and I'll talk to you about that when we go through some things later on, because there's an issue for me in the fact that I want to work for the clients that I'm paid for. I don't really want to work for that venue so much. And there can be a conflicting interest, whether you do what the venue says or whether you do what the clients do because you're going to get more work from them. I'll only work for venues if I am a preferred photographer for 2 venues. And the only reason why I'm a preferred photographer for those 2 venues is because they ask nothing from me to work with them. So they're not asking for me to do any special favors, give them anything. I give them images, obviously, to share on their website, but I don't do anything else. But I'll talk to you about that when we go through other things a little bit later on. Oreo's here. Hi, mate. How are you? What else have we got? Tag the Shooter said, I don't do any prints really yet, really on digital. Ori said, hi, David, a few smiles, a few compliments here and there, a couple of words with the parents. That all works wonders for me. So when I start to shoot, I'm already a family friend. And that's it, that's a thing. You do have to try and become their friend. And I always tend to be a little bit over enthusiastic, a little bit, because I think that's much better, because I want to try and make them happy. And so the second they come in, even if I'm a little bit down, I'll tend to be, g'day, how you going? Nice to see you. Can't wait to do the shoot today. I'm really excited about this. And deep down you're going, oh, Jesus, I really can't be bothered. But I won't show that to them. So that's an important aspect of it. And that's what you talk about when you sit down. And don't just start talking about the shoot. Just say, what have you got planned for the rest of the day? Just tell me about what you like to do. What are your interests? They're all things that you can do. And I talk about that when I go through the wedding discussion as well, which I'll talk to you about when we go through the wedding planning meeting and stuff later on as well. So let's see if anyone else... Hussein's in here. Hi, mate. How are you? So that's all I'm going to talk about today. Obviously, the next one we'll talk about some other things. I'll just work out the order that we're going to go through. So just throw some questions, guys, if you can think about any questions that you'd like to discuss going through this. Now we can answer that down here. If you have any questions with these, leave them down below and I will get back to you about that. I always answer the questions personally and usually as quickly as I see them. So leave them down below and I always get back to you. Clearly, if you haven't given me a thumbs up, if you can, please, that would be so good. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And this will be put into a playlist so you can see all the other videos that are related to this, setting up your business. So Hussein said, hi, guys and gals. It's good to see you here. Tag the Shooter said, how do you issue your images to clients, through thumb drives or... Well, Yeah, I do. Weddings I do. Weddings I actually supply them on a thumb drive, and I'll put them in a little box, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later on. But yeah, that's how I'll supply those. With images for studio shoots, I use Dropbox. So I'm using Dropbox to put everything into so they can just download them themselves. And that's one way that you can, I wouldn't say save costs, but it just makes it so that they don't have to come in to get those images. I often give a slideshow, but again, like I said, I try not to have that hard sell, and that's the thing for me is important, that I don't want to come over as that real salesperson. It probably does cost me sales, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's more important for me to have those referrals of people saying, David is amazing. He's not tried to sell me things. I've had people that come crying to me saying that they've gone in somewhere expecting to just pay a couple of $100 and they end up spending $2,000. Now, yes, that might be good, but they're never going to get that person again. They're never going to get any people from that family again or anything like that. And that's not a good marketing strategy. I mean, I'd hate that too. I hate going to a used car or a new car salesman and then have them going sale, sale, sale. It pisses me off. So they're things that you have to be careful about, guys. But that's just me personally. You don't have to follow my techniques, but it's just what I've found works for me. John said, I've had a USB go missing in the mail before, so I prefer Dropbox. And the thing too is I do charge them. I will actually tell them, I'll keep them on there until they notify me that they've copied the images off Dropbox. But if they do then delete them or do anything else and they need them put back on, I will charge them for putting them back up. And they're things that I write in my contract, that if I have to reburn things to DVDs, etc., they will get charged my hourly rate. So they're important things to list, and you list them in your contract. Tag the Shooter said, yeah, I use SmugMug now instead of Dropbox because they can buy images and prices for it. It's just the same as Dropbox, plus you get a website too. Yeah, you do. And I use WordPress though for that, and I'll talk to you about how I set up my website, and you'll see how that all works. It's pretty amazing, the setup that I've actually got, because you can pay by credit card through my website and do all different things through there. David Johnson said, hi David, is it okay to show a few images if you are excited after you have taken them? I've watched a few photographers who say that it's not a good way to go. You know what, David, I'm in two minds about that now. I do share immediately when I've done one, but they've always paid for those shoots. So that's an interesting thing for me. And this is what I tell people, that everyone who's nearly, like I said, 90% of the people that you'll see on my shoots that I do have paid for those images. So I very rarely do YouTube videos where clients haven't paid. So I'm lucky in that respect that I don't have to go outside and ask to do these shoots for nothing. I did really early on, but now nearly all of them are paid shoots. So they are actually shoots that are commercials. So I often will share those because they've already purchased them. If I was doing something where they hadn't paid for those images, or say, for instance, you'd just done a studio session and they'd paid to just come in and do a session, I wouldn't be sharing them, because the problem is the second you've shared them, that image has lost impact. Yes, it might help you, but it's lost impact in your selling for that image. The thing to do if you're working that way, if they've paid to, say, do a sitting and come into your workplace to see them, you really shouldn't share them until they've been saved, because you want that initial, oh my God, that's amazing, and they're not going to see them again until you've actually paid for it. So I wouldn't be sharing them if they haven't paid for them. And that's just a personal thing. If you're doing, obviously, trade for prints and stuff, share like crazy, share everything. But once they've paid for them, I'd share them. But if they haven't purchased them after a period of time, then I would be sharing them, because you've lost that moment of impact. Remember, if you are trying to sell on viewings, it's the impact that will sell for you. And we'll talk all about this when we talk about selling later. But that's the time where you'll have that selling impact. When my wedding clients come in, initially that's that selling impact time. After a period of time, that's gone. So then you could start to share your images freely, because it's basically past. I hope that answers that for you. Hussein said, about wedding lighting, I see others placing 2 high soft boxes with flashes into them facing the dance floor, and a third camera flash as well, but I find their pictures mostly white. What do you do? So is that talking about, I'm just seeing, are you talking about during the reception? I tend to use just natural, I'm tending to use natural light a hell of a lot lately, but what I will do, if it's really, really dark, And I've found that that's a great thing with the Sony cameras particularly. I can really raise the ISO, and I can use just an ISO with fast glass, and I'm using just the lights from the DJs and everything else. If it's really dark, I will actually start to use flashes, but I don't use softboxes or anything. I'll just use off-camera flash in a couple of spots in the corner of the room to just give a bit of fill. So sometimes I'll actually do that too in receptions as well. And if it's very dark, that's what I'll do. But so it varies sometimes. If there's enough natural light from the DJ and stuff like that, I'll use natural light coming from them and using without on-camera flash. Sometimes I'll even use on-camera flash, just point it up to the ceiling or back, or sometimes I'll use off-camera flash on light stands. I'm a bit hesitant sometimes to use light stands in case if someone knocks them over and it becomes a bit of an issue. But yeah, I will use them sometimes. Sometimes I'll put them on the band's stage or something like that where I know they're okay. Tag the Shooter said, I hate when TFP or any models here, you take 50 pics and they expect all 50 pics. And that's the important thing that you've got to do too. You actually have to make sure if you're sharing trade for prints, you tell them what they're going to do. And you know what? I sign a contract with them at the beginning. And this is an important thing to do. Even free for shoots, you should be signing a contract, and you also should be signing a model release. I use the... is this downloaded yet? Yeah. No, it's still downloading. I use... which was the one I used the other day? I had it on my iPad because I did a shooter here in the weekend. I don't think I've got it on my phone. Let me see. No. If I remember, I'll stick it in the comment down below. I use model release for all of the shoots that I do because I want to make sure I'm covered in case if someone says anything about them being shared. So it's important to do that. So if you're working with a model, the two things to do is have a model release to make sure that you can release those images and there's not going to be any issues. The other thing too is to have a contract to say you're going to get 5 images retouched. This is what you're going to get. That covers that, because otherwise you start to get in arguments. If you've got that covered and she says anything, all you have to do is highlight the part on your contract, paste that into wherever she's talking, and that will go away immediately. And that saved me a million times. So yeah, that's something I always do. Oh, you're talking about dark, yeah, for the flash dark with coloured lights. It's very, very hard. That's where you've got to start gelling your flashes and stuff like that to match the ambience. And I showed that when I was going through my flash lights. You must gel your flashes to suit the light, and it's usually that yellow warming gels will actually make it so it matches your lights. Otherwise, it will go white, and that's a problem you've got to get over. The reason why, if you're shooting flash under these lights in a dance hall or when you're doing your receptions, is because they're always incandescent lighting or whatever, or they're balanced to a certain colour. If you don't balance your flash to that, your flash will be daylight, it becomes white or blue, and the images of your dancing couple will look white as against this lovely ambient everywhere else. So you've got to make sure you match your ambient lights. That's sometimes where I like to just use natural light, because if you're not using flash at all and you've got enough light in your camera, if you can use a really fast lens and you can pump the ISO up, you don't have to worry about those color issues anymore, because you're getting that natural beautiful lighting coming from your dance floor. So are there any other questions, guys? Otherwise we'll call that a day. Like I said, I've really enjoyed coming back to this. So this will go under that list of all the other ones where you'll be able to see it. What do you say to models when they say, can I see the images before I edit them so you can choose? Or do you choose them and edit? No, look, sometimes I'm quite comfortable with them doing that, to be honest. I won't share them though. I will share them off on Dropbox. If they're close enough, they can come in and see me and choose. If I'll often put them on Dropbox and I'll have watermarks all through them so that the image looks terrible, and they can choose from there just to make sure they're not sharing any that I'm not happy with. I will never share an image that hasn't been retouched fully and that I'm happy with. And that's one thing that you have to understand. And that comes back to this business I was saying about style and sharing. I will never share anything that hasn't been fully edited and fully retouched, because that's my image out there and I want people to see that. So there's no way I'll allow a model to share an image that hasn't been retouched. I wouldn't give it that to her. The only images a model will get are retouched images. So if she shares them, they're finished. JP Photo said, hi, David. Formerly Common Sense. So let's change their name. So any other questions, guys, before we finish? Now, otherwise, like I said, I'm going to try and put the studio shoot up. I may get that up today. If not, it'll be tomorrow. And clearly, there'll be the live shoot on on Friday in the US, Thursday, sorry, in the US and the UK. It's Friday here in Australia. I may get another one of these up during the week. If not, I'll try and get one up early next week as well, because these will start to come back up again now to add to that whole series that I'm doing. No, I'm not. Tag the Shooter said, are you sick of me? No, I'm not, mate. Fire away. That's why I'm here. I'm here to give you everything. I'm not holding anything back. So, do you water? No, I don't. He's asked if I watermark my images. I don't watermark any images. And there's a reason why I don't do that. Sometimes I think perhaps I should because of marketing. If someone shared it and they haven't tagged me, they'd still know it's me. I'm not worried about stealing it, because if I find out they've stolen an image, well, then I'm going to sue. But also, you know what? It would take me 5 minutes to edit a watermark out of an image in Photoshop. So watermark images do not stop theft. And that's the thing that you've got to understand about that. And sometimes it can take away from the image itself. Your eye is always drawn to text, and that's the thing that you've got to understand when you're dealing with a watermark. If you're really trying to show your image, the worst thing you can actually do is put a watermark on it, because your eye is drawn there first. That takes attention away from the image that you're trying to show. So if you're trying to show a beautiful face, your eye is immediately drawn to text, and believe me, that your brain, you cannot not do that. Your brain is always immediately moves to text. So you'll go to text first and then you'll go onto the image. So it does detract a little bit from your image. So that's the thing. It doesn't stop theft at all, because like I said, if someone's going to steal that image, they're going to retouch that out as well. And I mean, I'm a really high-end retoucher. I could get rid of any watermark you put on there. So it doesn't. The only thing I could say is if you want to put one on, just do it very small in a corner so that you can, if it's shared. I don't do any watermarking though, so no. The only thing I'll say is in my contract, it will say that I have to be tagged in the image and I have to have commercial rights to that image. So if they did sell it for commercial work, it has to come back through me. They can freely share that image to anyone they want and use it for their portfolio. Things like that are all listed in my contract, which I'll go through you as well when I talk about contract. And that's the only thing that can help marketing, I suppose, because if it's shared without being you're at David Osler, which I always get people to share, they'll always say either at Osler Images or at David Osler. That's linked anyway, so I don't really need my watermark on them. But yeah, some people will vary on that. Any last minute questions, guys? Otherwise, we'll call it a day. I'm just about to go and have my morning coffee. I can call, coffee's calling me. It's coffee time. All right, guys, well, we might leave it there. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, leave any questions down below. Any other questions from this, questions that you've actually given. And like I said, we'll then move on to the next thing, which I'm not sure what it'll be. I'll work that out because this is going to go for quite a while. Oreo said, I'll put a small watermark in the corner so people cannot say in court that they were not aware. Yeah, and that could be something. Don't forget too that your images in court is actually watermarked digitally. So that's one thing too that you can always get people on. It is digitally signed in with the file as well. And Hussein said, can you share your contract with us to learn from it? Look, I can't, because the thing is, I can show you the contract. I've paid for my contract through the site that I use, and I'll go through that with you, but I've paid for that. So I've got the license to use it, but I will take you through what's in it, and then you could copy that and base your own thing on it, but I will take you through that once I go through wedding contracts. And I'll show you where that was bought from, because you'll see it when I take you through the sites that I use and the management sites that I use and things. So it will all come from it. Tag the Tutor said, have you ever had to sue someone? No, I've been close a couple of times where they've used my images without paying, but they took them down when I challenged them, so I left it at that. But I would if they kept it up, that's for sure. I've seen people share my stuff on YouTube and stuff, and sometimes it's just not worth the hassle, and I haven't worried about it. But yeah, I would if they'd made money from it, if they'd actually printed it and used it in commercial work. They've only shared them online, and I've asked them to take them off. BCM Megalwork said, bye, David. Thanks. Take care of that cold. I know it's 2 weeks. It's driving me nuts. They're all saying have a nice day. All right, guys, so we might leave it there. Like I said, any other questions, I won't answer any more now, but leave them down below and I'll get back because I don't see those questions once we quit. So it's been great talking to you guys, and I'll see you again soon for the next video. So bye for now, guys. See you later.